Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. We are from group 17 and we will present about the nature and the meaning of deviance. So, this is our theme. Nama saya Lala binti Abdul Rahman and Nazifa Aida binti Yusuf. The content that we will talk about is what is deviance from normative derivative definition, alternative definition. Also, we will talk about the deviance in society, about norms, definition and deviance, subculture, the relativity of deviance, creating deviance, determining norms and the content of deviance, also the two final observations.
So I will start with introduction. Deviance refers to rule-breaking behavior of some kind which fails to conform to the norms and expectation of a particular society or social group. Deviance is closely related to the concept of crime, which is law-breaking behavior. Criminal behavior is usually deviant, but not all deviant behavior is criminal. So, what is deviance? Some sociologists conceive of deviance as a collection of conditions, person, or act that society disvalue, finds offensive, or condemn. These definitions avoid the critical question of how or why people classify acts or individuals as offensive to them and hence and on what basis they disvalue those examples. Such a conception also fails to recognize the possibility that deviance might include highly valued differences, that society can encounter positive as well as negative deviance, as in the cases of the genius and the exceptional child. So dekat sini dia deviance ni adalah satu perlakuan yang ataupun situasi yang tidak disenangi masyarakat, dan perlakuan mereka ni menyakitkan hati masyarakat. So, pernyataan ni dia buat orang mempersoalkan kenapa orang tu mengklasifikasikan sesuatu perbuatan tu boleh menyinggung perasaan mereka. Next, I will talk about normative and reactivist definition. Normative definition describes deviance as a violation of a norm. A norm is a standard about what a human being should or should not think, say or do under given circumstances. So kat sini dia menyatakan bahawa normative definition adalah satu pelanggaran norma. Okay, next is reactivist definition. A reactivist or relativist definition of deviance holds that there are no universal or unchanging entities that define deviance for all time and in all places. Rather, social groups create deviance by making the rule who infraction create deviance. So, dia menyatakan bahawa reaksi masyarakat terhadap perlakuan deviant ni melalui pelbagai variasi. Okay, next is alternative definition. So, it have four alternative definition. First is reactivist definition, statistical definition, normative definition, and absolutist definition.
Next, I will talk about the deviance in society. Deviance refers to something different from something else. Deviants are people not like us. They behave differently, or so many people think. But deviance extends beyond simple, everyday observation of differentness among people and their behavior. So this is three ideas for how people judge how deviance is, that based on judgment, differentness, and relative standards. After that, we will talk about norms. Definition of deviance refers to norms, identity, the importance of norms everyday life. Social norms, expectation of conduct in particular situation regulate human social relative and behavior. Individual and group rarely recognize the often arbitrary origin of the social norms in their group, since they have encountered this prioritized in the growing process of living. group members will learn and transmit norms from generation to generation. So this is how people will judge how norms is, how widely people accept them, how society enforce them, how society transmit them, and how much conformity people require. Also, there are two types of things norms talks about. Proscriptive, tell people what they should not do. Also prescriptive, with the prescriptive norms tell them what they ought to do. Norm establish the basis from interprets both action and event. In 1986, Elwin said that the social norms and behavior vary substantially among social classes in the United States, revealing many different groups, attitudes, and values. In 1974, a younger lower-class parents tend to discipline children by physical punishment more often than middle classes. People often feel pressure to act different ways according to the roles they performed at the time. Social roles is a collection of norms that together convey expectations about appropriate conduct or a person in a particular positions. Next is subculture. Norms emerge from group, and different groups are likely to have different norms. Socialists often refer to such different and subculture difference. Sometimes members of social groups share a set of values and meaning not shared by the society on which they have part. The separation creates a subculture, collection of norms, values, and beliefs with content distinguishable from those of domain culture. A variety of subculture and cultures characterize modern individual society. Some of them subculture gain status of deviance. Criminologists have described the same process to explain the origin of subculture within intribution of deviance. Groups within a society may exhibit differences in the norms of accepted behavior almost as pronounced as the differences between cultures. Any logical explanation of the action common in certain deviant subgroup must stress development of the behavior. A discussion of the norms at any given family probably focus on those of the society class occupational group of some specific subculture group to which the family belongs. So next is differentiation and deviance. Differentiation refers to the merit variation among people based on selection characteristics. Early sociologists and like Durham saw social definition as a master modernization. Conditions that promote differentiation also prove to deviance. So basically in this part is definition also promote deviance to be exist and make it so not obvious. Next, the relativity of deviance. A definition of deviance that refers to norms does not identify any particular type of conduct as deviance. Change, standard, and form of deviance along with degree of disapproval that each of elicits. Deviance cites not a unique type of behavior but rather common behavior that happens too often. Some group because norm apply relative judgment limited to group places and time. Deviance is also a relative phenomenon. The debates over prostitution in the relativity of deviance also contain gambling, nunism, cheating, medical, quackery, marijuana. Social types perceived by some as deviance also contain reckless driver, pacifist, racist, hypocritical, square conservation, the very rich, the very poor, all people, drinkers, non-drinkers, motorcycle gang members. There are also liberals, critics, conservative, considering them without deviance. Some conservative return their criticisms. sociologists often maintain that no act includes anything inherently deviant. Deviance requires a judgment that refers to some norms. In effect, the norms create deviance by creating social differences and attaching a normal quality to the act that design it as something one ought to do or to avoid. As you can see at the right side, there will be a table will explain how what activity can be looked for different things, like drinking beer, probably not a deviance for celebrating a football victory, but it will be probably deviant for celebrating a successful church fundraising campaign. Also, for activity like asking someone of the opposite sex out a date will be not deviance for unmarried people, but it probably deviant for married people. After that, creating deviance. Deviance is often a social created condition. When groups receive threats to their interests from certain acts or conditions, they attempt to promote those interests by pursuing other of legitimacy of their priorities. In this way, successful social promotion creates and maintains attention for some social issues.
So I will continue with missing children. Group create categories of deviance when they pursue others to acknowledge the legitimacy of their norms. The problem of missing children illustrates how one group can enlarge its concern to interest other group as well. So, kat sini dia mengatakan bahawa masalah hilang anak ni menggambarkan bagaimana kumpulan boleh membesarkan masalah ni untuk menarik minat grup lain. So next is satanic cult. Satanic cult worship malevolent being throughout the United States. Book article and talk show episode of Satanism tend to confirm this belief by highlighting claims that unknown group increasingly engage in animal slaughter, nocturnal rituals, and even human sacrifice. So, ia berkaitan dengan pemujaan syaitan yang berleluasa di Amerika Syarikat. Dan mereka membuat satu artikel ataupun rancangan TV untuk temu bual tentang perkara ni. Mereka cenderung untuk mengesahkan kepercayaan ini dengan menonjolkan dakwaan bahawa ada kumpulan yang tidak dikenali semakin terlibat dalam ritual malam, pengorbanan manusia dan penyembelihan haiwan. Next is determining norms and the content of deviance. Sociologists face a difficult problem determining how strongly various groups within a society oppose certain norms. Normative changes may display predictable patterns. Some observers have agreed that some form of behavior follow a cycle or a sequence of stage, moving from disapproval to greater tolerance. Changing norms seriously complicate attempts to evaluate standard for deviance. Acceptability of cigarette smoking, for example, has risen and fallen a number of times in United States. So next is two final observation. For the first one is social deviance. Social deviance refers to a behavior that is found offensive and unacceptable in a social group. Social deviance can be formal, where individuals break laws and guidelines of land, or informal, where an individual is just deviant from unwritten norms. Second is social problem. A social problem is any condition or behavior that has negative consequences for a large number of people and that is generally recognized as a condition or behavior that needs to be addressed.
Lastly, for the summary, the notion of deviance generally refers to some difference of a social standard in behavior, condition, and people. People judge deviance relative to the norms of a group or society. just as norm change. So, two criteria of deviance observation. Some encounter difficulty identifying norms before anyone violates them. That's all from us. Thank you for watching.